Welcome back to the shop, guys. In this video I will be doing the shift detent spring mod on these YZ250 two-strokes. This is going to work anywhere from 1999 to the newest YZ250 two-stroke. I've had this modification done to my 18 for years now. It's been doing great, and I'm going to do it to my new to me 2022 here. The reason you do this is because these bikes are known to do misshifts, get caught in between gears in like a false neutral, mainly between like second and third gear or third and fourth gear. You'll go to shift and it just gets caught right between the two gears and it acts like a neutral, and sometimes it bangs back in the gear, so and it'll pop back in the gear, and that's how you break these transmissions. Believe it or not, it might not break it the first time it happens, but every time it happens it's chipping away a little piece off the dogs inside the transmission. At some point it'll just start jumping out of gear on you. So if your bike's catching false neutrals on you quite often, this is something you're definitely going to want to do. It's also a safety factor too. Imagine going towards a big jump, trying to slip in a shift right on the face, right before the face of the jump, and all of a sudden you catch a false neutral. It sucks. So that's what we're going to be doing here. It's a modification, like I've mentioned, that I've done to several bikes, but I have it done to my 18. It's been doing great for years. I'm going to do it to this one right here. So all right, let me go ahead and drop the motor oil. Curious how this oil comes out, because I haven't dropped it since I bought this bike. Oh boy, someone had that drain plug on there tight. You know, you can strip these things out, right? Put them too tight. Let's see. Oh well, it appears someone had transmission fluid in there, and it looks pretty good and clean, so that's good. I mean, what you see back here, this is this is just an oil pan. It's dirty, but I'm looking at what's draining off of it here. It's nice and clean, so that's good. Okay, the next step will be, there you go, pull that little clip out the back of the rear brake there, because we have to get the whole clutch cover off. Pull this up off. But yeah, this is a really good modification. It even allows you to slip the shifts in a little bit quicker. If you don't already know, and I'll try to explain this a little better as the video goes on, your foot doesn't complete the shift. Your foot just initiates the shift. Give you a little example if you don't understand what I'm talking about. I'll give you something to think about here. You ever notice when the bike is off, you can sometimes shift like up and it doesn't quite go into the next gear until you roll the bike a little bit, and then you'll hear it complete the shift. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Your foot doesn't complete the shift, it just initiates it, and then the spring pressure of the shift detent spring will apply pressure until the dogs on that particular gear that you're trying to go into line up, and then it'll push them into that, it'll push them together into that gear. So by doing this modification, it can allow that process to happen a little bit brisker, a little bit faster, and allows you to slip shifts in a little bit quicker and more seamlessly, as well as avoid hitting them stupid false neutrals. Them things suck. So I'm going to get the kick started off here. Come on, there it is. Alright. I guess I gotta get the pipe off now. I already drained the coolant. I did that off camera. To drain it, it's just this bolt right here in the bottom of the water pump. You'll see it has a little copper washer underneath it. You take that out and take the top radiator cap off, and it'll flush out pretty good. Let me get down here. Where's my pipe spring? There it is. I'm gonna pull the pipe springs off first. By the way, if you're curious, I got a pro circuit pipe to put on this bike, as you guys know. This pipe, it's in great shape, other than that dent. I mean, this is a good looking pipe. This bike hasn't been ridden hard. Down in the description, I will have a link to how to pull dents out of a pipe. I use the air pressure method, air pressure and heat, and we can pop them out. I'm going to do this pipe, not now. I'm not in no hurry. I'm not going to be using it, but I would like to at least straighten it out, make it look good again. So I will be doing that to this pipe down the road. But meanwhile, let me go ahead and get that pipe off there. This mount's also broken too, but I have a new one of them. Okay, got that off. You ain't gonna worry about that one. Let me just pop this one off up here. And pull the pipe right on off there. There we go. Alright. Go disconnect this hose. She's stuck on there pretty good. There it is. These pipe springs out in here so I don't get lose them. Okay, now I gotta remove the power valve cover. Sometimes they can be stuck on there pretty good. Don't worry, we got a new gasket for that. Got to disconnect the power valve rod from the cylinder here. Let's see. They give you a nice little slit right here and a hole to slide a tool into. Yeah, that'll work. That way, as you loosen this up, it won't spin the whole power valve, because see, it could rotate this. Let me show you. See? And you don't want to close it harder because we're going to be loosening it. So you don't want to close it harder than the spring pressure that's already on it and damaging anything in there. So that's why they give you that nice little hole to stick something in, and it'll hold it in place, keep it from spinning. There we go. Set that over here. Pull that out now, and then use that to pry this up and off. There's always a spacer, washer, whatever you want to call this thing right here. Make sure you collect that and don't lose it. I like to just take it off there so it doesn't get lost. Okay, now all that's left is just removing a whole bunch of hardware. The ones that hold the outer clutch cover on. I believe that's all of them. I've been working on these things for a lot of years, so I kind of know what hardware needs to be removed to get the outer clutch cover on and off. Which ones can stick around. Alright, here we go. Kind of what I do is I use my thumb and I push the kick-starting mechanism inward as I'm pulling the cover off. There we go, the cover's out of there. Okie dokie, gotta remove the whole clutch now. And as you hear me say in all my videos, you'll see me using impact a lot during teardown. I'm real cautious of where I use them during reassembly, because you can strip stuff out in a hurry. But during teardown, it definitely speeds things up. I'm just going to grab the all the plates all in one shot here. See, like that. These plates look beautiful, by the way. They're in great shape, so that's good to see. Then we have this right here. There's a rod in there too, but I'll let that, oops, shoot, dropped it. I'll let that stay right there. Okay, now we have this locking tab right here. We need to fold that back over. I'll use a punch, try to get under it. Actually, let me get a small flathead first to lift it up a little bit, because that punch is kind of a little bit too fat to kind of weasel its way under it. I can just get it up just a little bit. There we go. This one's never been used. I mean, this one's only been used once, so I have a fresh tab on this side. I'll be using that during reassembly. If yours has already been used a few times, then you might want to just pick up a new one of them. Okay, this is a very odd 29 millimeter. They don't use 29 millimeters that much on these Japanese. It's usually like 27, then it goes right to 30. I'm going to use an impact. It makes it a lot easier. If you don't have an impact to get this off, they do sell a tool that allows you to grab the clutch basket right here. It's like a big old pair of pliers or whatever. You can hold it with one hand and loosen it with the other. There's all kinds of ways to do it. I even had to put it in gear and shove rags in the back sprocket and stuff, keep the motor from spinning. You know, there's so many different ways to do this, but if you have an impact, I tell you, it makes it a lot easier. Just be familiar with your impact. There it is, and that was on setting number 1 in this impact. So this impact has 3 settings. That was setting number 1, and that's all it took. Pull that lock washer off. Okay, slide the inner hub on out of there. There's a washer in here, so make sure you collect that. Sometimes it'll stick right here, so look for it. It's right here. You have to line the teeth up to get it out. There you go. Then we have the clutch basket. Let me check it. No grooving at all. This is nice. It's in good shape. There's a washer back here. There's a bearing and a sleeve in here, but there's also a washer right there. But we're just gonna leave the washer there. We don't need it. It can stay right there. All right, there's a shift detent spring. This is old design. I gotta be honest with you. Most of your newer bikes, and even bikes back then, came with like a wound up type spring up in here that was much better design. This one right here sucks. Okay, so it's in neutral now. There's 2 ways to do this. You can remove all this and it makes it a lot easier, but I'm gonna first attempt to try to do it without removing all this. But to do that, I want to get it into gear, because when it's in neutral, it'll sit a little bit higher. So you see how the spring sits more compressed now that it's in gear. So I'm gonna leave it there. And yep, she's in gear. Alright. Now I'll pop that 10 millimeter off of there. Right here. Pull this cover off. And now I should just be able to slide this spring right off there. There it is. Okay, now I need to remove this whole detent rod here. So let me go ahead and do that. There we go. Okay, so now that this is off, I'm going to show you basically how I'm going to do this mod. Right? If you can find the spring that's stiffer and stronger, that'll work. But you know, I did this in a pinch one time and it worked so good. I've just been doing it like this since. So what I do is the spring normally hooks up to this lever right there. What I do is I just cut a nice little slit right down here, where I'll be able to now attach the spring down here. It'll just sit in a little groove, and that little groove will be enough to keep it in there, but it'll also pull the spring further, extend the spring out, and provide more pressure for the detent system. Now this definitely works. It definitely applies more pressure, and you can feel it on the shifter, more positive shifts, and you can feel the transmission better when you make a shift. You have more of a which lets you know you got into gear. It gives you that confidence that you made it to the next gear. So I'll show you what I do this with. I just use a die grinder here. Pull it back and show you a little better. I just use your standard die grinder, or should I say, I don't know what the heck you call this thing, you know, Dremel. I guess you can call it, with these little cutting wheels. It has to be a very, very thin wheel, so make sure you get a nice thin wheel so you can cut a nice little slit there. I'm going to do it real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, got it cut up here. Show you what I did. You can see right here where I cut that groove. Now you want to cut the groove, let me get the spring here, big enough to swallow the spring up completely. You see how it completely, see how there's a groove big enough for the spring to completely sit up in it. Again, I've been running it like this for years on my 18. That's where it goes stock, like this, and it's going to be angled up like this. But now it's going to be down here, so it's going to extend the spring. And I've been running it like this for years, no issues. It's not going to pop out, don't worry, it stays put. So yeah, let's put it back together here. Okay, I went ahead and put some thread locker on here. Don't need that coming loose while I'm out riding. That would suck. Remember, there's a washer that goes underneath it as well. You gotta kind of pay attention and make sure it centers out as the bolt goes down on it. You'll know if you have it right because you'll still be able to move freely after it's bolted down nice and tight. There we go. Yep, moving freely. Now this is where removing the shifter, shaft, and the whole ratcheting system here for the shifting makes it a lot easier to allow this to close down even more, and you pretty much allow you to pop the spring right up on there. But that's a lot of work, and I've been able to get them on like this before, so I'm going to try it again. That's what I do. Try to get it here with you on the camera too. So I hook it up like this. Actually, let me hook it up this way. There we go. And I take a small, here you go, get you up in there better. Take a small flathead, put it like this. Gotta balance it perfectly. There it is. Booyah. And now you can clearly see the spring is pulled tighter. So let's go and check the shifter out. Reach around here for the shifter. See, watch that. I just did a shift, right? I just let go of the shifter. You saw it move. So here's both my hands. I'm not touching the shifter, but it hasn't completed the shift. Watch this. This is what completes the shift. Watch when I turn this shaft. It's no different than if your bike was rolling forward. See that? That spring is what completes your shift. So, alright, we're in 5th gear now. See, now I just clicked down the fork, but it didn't complete the shift. Watch when I spin this. See? Sometimes you get lucky like that, third, you just hit it, it goes right in because the dog's already lined up. If they're not lined up, it'll hang until it spins a little bit, and then that will complete the shift. Put it neutral now. There we go. The only negative, and I actually consider this a positive, but some people might consider it a negative, and this is why a lot of your bikes come with shifty tent springs that are not that robust. Most of your pro racers, I promise you, they're running heavier shifty tent springs. Pretty much they all are. But the reason they don't give us that in stock form is because this one negative right here. It does make it slightly harder to find neutral in the pit. When you come into the pit, it's time to find neutral. It's going to be easier for you to go from first right to second, and second right to first, and just skip right over neutral. Sometimes it's easier to just shut the bike off and get it. Now, I typically don't have a problem getting it, but some people do. And so that's why they don't put very robust shifty tent springs in stock form on most of your bikes. Some bikes are good enough in stock form, some are not. The old RM 125s used to be pretty good, but because of that, magazines complained every year that it was tough to find neutral on that bike. It's just how it is. So I'm not worried about being hard to find neutral while I'm on in the pit. I'm worried about accidentally catching a false neutral when I'm on the track, or even catching neutral in general. I never want to see neutral when I'm on the track. Okay. Time to put it back together. So we got that all straightened out, so we're good there. Okay, time to start buttoning her all back up. Put some thread locker on here. There we get this. This is what holds all that on. Hold on. Alright, here we go. Holy cow. Ratchet. This just holds that seal in place there and also keeps the spring from coming off right there. Again, make sure you use some thread locker on that stuff. Okay, so we have that washer that's in place there. I never pulled it off. Make sure yours is there. And inside the clutch here, we have the bearing and the sleeve. Slide that on. Slide the clutch basket on. Spin it a little bit till you get it all the way on. Then we got this washer right here that has the splines in the center of it. Pop that in place. There we go. Then we have the inner hub. Pop that into place. Alright. Then we have the washer with the locking tabs on it. And we have the nut. Take some stuck nuts, thread locker, the red stuff. You don't have to, it's got a locking tab on it, but I like to. I found one come loose one time and the locking tab was holding it on, so which means it was like vibrating the whole time. So I'd rather just put some thread locker on it, keep that from happening. Okay, there are torque specs for this, and if you have the tool that can hold this, you can get a torque wrench on it. Follow the manual. Manuals, you can download them for free for these Yamahas, luckily. As for me in my house, well, I know my torque, I know my impact really well. I'm going to start on setting number 1, give it a couple quick wraps, and then I'll put it to setting number 2, give it a couple quick wraps. And that's going to be good enough for this bike. Now all I got to do is bend one of them over. I just use some channel locks here. There we go. It's holding it in place. You know, might as well bend that one over too. Although it's getting weak on this side, but might as well. Much as I can. Alright. Okay, time to put the clutches back in. Now, as you can see, I still have the pressure plate on this side, so this side went in first. Now, for you guys out there that might not know this, let me pull this back a little bit further and show you. We start with the fiber here. Put that on. Doesn't matter which direction you put that one on. Then the steel. Now the steel, let me set this over here. Let me show you something. Watch this when I pull this steel off. It's supposed to go on this way, right? This is a rounder end right here. This is the way they come from factory. This is a rounder end. That's a sharper end. Your finger will catch it. If you slide over here, it's soft because they stamp them like this. The Yamaha manual, at least it used to, I don't know if it still does, but it tells you to put the rounded end towards the motor. And that's the way they come out when they're brand new. The reason I'm focusing on this right now, because these clutches never been out of this bike, is because I did have a guy in the comment say that I was bullshit about that, and well, no. So now a fiber, so you do one fiber, one steel. Let's check this out. I'll pull this steel off, right? And I'll show you. We're supposed to put it on that way, right? Look, round end, sharp end. It's the way they come factory. And it's the way they tell you to put them in. It's one fiber, one steel. I'm not even going to check the steels anymore on camera like that, like I just did, because I'm just looking at them. So I can see that this side's sharp, that's towards me, which means the round end is towards the motor. The idea there is it makes for smoother engagement when the pressure plate is pushing the plates together. When you're letting the clutch lever out and it's pushing the plates together, and it's under power, it makes for a smoother engagement. Boy, these plates look nice. They're in really good shape. He didn't ride this bike hard at all. And good for me, right? Alright, so here, we got this piece. Can't forget that. It goes right here in the center. One more fiber plate. Okay, I'm going to check my work. I'm going to make sure there's a gap in between every fiber plate up here. That lets me know there's a steel plate there. Alrighty. We can pop this thing back on now. There we go. And then put all the clutch springs with the bolts back in their spot. I'm in by finger. I'm just going to let this do the twisting for me. Okay, now on these clutch spring bolts, you don't need any Loctite for them. The springs actually kind of provide the tension that is needed to keep them tight. When you go to tighten them down, you don't want to over tighten them. It's easier to break the towers that them bolts go into. So what I do is I just hold the clutch with one hand, keep it from spinning, and tighten it with the other hand. And that's really all that's needed to keep these things down. They don't take a lot of torque to hold them in place. Okay, I cleaned up that surface, put the dowel pins back in here, have a brand new gasket, set that in place. Okay, time to put the cover on. Now, as you saw, you have two gears right here, one for the power valve and one for the water pump. You can remove there's two ways to do this. You can remove the water pump cover right here and spin that. Get the teeth to line up and mesh so the cover will go completely on, or you can just put the kickstarter lever on and spin the motor a little bit. There it is. Boom. She's fully on there. Let me get all the hardware and set that back on. What I do is I put every bolt in first, and I pay attention to how far they stick out. I just set them in place. They should all stick out the equal amount, which is about 11 millimeters or so, when you have them all in their right hole, the correct hole. If one's sticking out further and another one's not sticking out as far, you might have them two mixed up. This one looks like it goes right here. And these three all go at the bottom. All right. There you go. That just does all the twisting for me. It has a drag set on it, so I'm not going to strip them out. But now I can torque them by hand. Again, there's torque specs for this. My hands are pretty calibrated, so I know how tight I want them. But yeah, just be careful if you don't use the torque wrench on these. They are easy to strip out. You don't want to go too tight. Just snug them down. Bottom them out and snug them up down against that. Don't keep going for it. We'll strip these things out in a hurry. Nothing worse than when someone brings me a bike to work on and like everything's stripped out all over it. It just drives me nuts. It makes this bike a nightmare to work on. It sucks. So yeah, don't strip stuff out. Alright, let's get this hose back on. Okay, I'm going to be doing a top end next, so I actually need this cover off. But just for this video's sake, I'll walk you through the steps of putting this together. So you need to put that washer back there, spacer, and then you have to hook this up. Now to get this on there, first off you want to grab the, let me see here. If the power valve's not fully closed, you can see how I can spin this right here. Make sure you turn it completely counterclockwise to fully close it, and then even then you still have to pick this lever up a little bit to get it on there like this. There you go. Now that that's on there, you will definitely want to use some thread locker on this thing right here, the bolt that holds it down. You need that on there. So what I would do if I was assembling this complete right now is I'd stick that back in there, put some thread locker on there, bolt that down nice and snug, and then for the cover here, you just lay this little sucker right on here the way it's supposed to go. And then I like to put a dab of Yamaha bond right here in the crotch right over here and right down there. Otherwise they like to dribble out of there a little bit. They used to do that for us from the factory, but it doesn't look like they're doing that anymore. But anyway, and you put the cover back on, and there you go. That part is complete. So just so it looks complete for this video, I'll just set it there. All right, we got to get back over here now. Kickstarter time. Where's the Kickstarter? Here it is. That's how that goes. There we go. Put some thread locker on there. You don't want to lose your Kickstarter while you're out riding, that's for sure. There we go. All right. Feels good. Okay. That spring, put it right there. I like to go ahead and hook the spring up to the lever ahead of time. I went ahead and put some fresh grease on here. Alright, let's pop this bad boy on there. Got to kind of feel for the hole now that I have that spring on there. It kind of fights against you a little bit, but that's okay. Make sure you get it threaded in there perfectly straight. I've seen a lot of these that get put in there lopsided, cross threaded, and it just gets nasty. Alright. Yeah, a little tighter. I like that pretty tight. I had one get a little bit loose, just a little loose. I didn't know. You know, how would you know it's a little loose? Kept riding to the point it just walled out the hole. Gonna put the cotter pin or the safety pin back in on the rear. And there we go. And then all that's left is fill it back up with coolant. Put your motor oil back in it. Put the pipe on it. And that's it. The job's complete for the Shift Detent mod. Well, I went ahead and put the pipe on. It's a brand new pipe. I just wanted to get a test fit. It's fitting good. I'm not going to start her up because, as you know, I left that all disconnected in there. And I still need to add coolant in it. I did put motor oil in it, though, because I'm going to do a top end next. However, the Shift Detent part of this job is done. So that part of this video is done. If you like this kind of stuff, click subscribe. I appreciate all my viewers, all my subscribers. As I always say, I hope you guys have a great weekend of riding. It's going to be a few more weeks until I can start riding this. So until then, I got my 2018, which I'll be taking out this Sunday, the Moto Bros Punta Gorda. It's going to be a good day of riding. I hope all you guys have a great weekend of riding. And catch you next time.